What's going on, everybody? It's your man, DJ Caveman. I'm here once again on the porch with the one and only Tom DiNucci, writer, director, actor. This week, on episode 6, we're talking about Arlo the Burping Pig, which is about a 7-year-old girl that befriends a teacup pig named Arlo. And Tom, how are you?
Daryl, I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk about a movie that, wow, damn, man. I mean, it's a movie about a talking pig.
Yeah, right.
What's better than that on a Friday afternoon? So I'm excited to get into this movie. You know, like a lot of the films that we talk about on this show, haven't really thought about this one in a while, you know, but at the same time, this one's really special to me for a number of reasons. Right off the bat, this was the first one that I did in Los Angeles. It's the first movie that I did kind of out of my backyard and, got out of the Rhode Island territory. I took the show on the road and we went to Los Angeles and we made Arlo the Burping Pig. It was also the first movie that wasn't, filled with violence,
right? Yeah.
Decapitation, blood, guts. This was literally the polar opposite of every movie that I have ever made up to this point. A lot of the movies that I had done were dark and edgy, and go down the list quick. We had Self-Storage, we had Army of the Damned, we had Almost Mercy. We're talking about some dark fucking movies here. We're talking about some.
They did like a complete 180.
Yeah, I mean, if you add up the body count in those first 3 movies, you had dozens of people dead.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about a movie called Arlo the Burping Pig about an adorable little girl who moves to a new town and is kind of scared that she won't meet any new friends. And sure enough, this super cute talking pig stumbles into her life and becomes her best buddy. So that pitch right there is a lot different than the pitch of the first, few movies I made. So I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to reminisce about some of the funny stories. I mean, guys, we're dealing with a live animal on this movie. And you know what they say, like the oldest, one of the oldest adages in film is, don't work with kids and animals. They say that all the time. Like, that's like the old line. Because, it takes longer to do everything traditionally. But I gotta say, we worked with both kids and animals in this movie. And we got it done. We shot this movie in a tight little schedule. I think we shot this whole movie in something crazy. Like, you're not going to believe it, but I think we shot this movie in 12 days. Like, wow. It was an absurd go kind of pace, and we just cranked it out. And also, shout out to Richard Switzer. This is the first movie that Richard Switzer produced, that I directed. We've gone on to work on a number of things together, so it'll be fun to talk about Richard and dive a little deeper into, what he does as far as, he's been able to put together a really great body of work in a real short period of time. He's a young guy. He's only, I think he's about 24 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's got this slate of movies that he's been producing movies since he was literally a kid. He's like 17, 18 years old when he got into the business. So it'll be fun to talk about him. It'll be fun to talk about how this all came about, how you go from directing, blood and guts and death and dismemberment to fun, loving, wholesome family fun with a pig and Joey Lawrence. And Jennifer Taylor. So this is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, I watched it this morning, like I do every week. Yes. For every episode, I watched it this morning, and it was different. It was definitely, like I said, it was a complete 180 from what I was used to seeing. No blood, no guts, nobody died.
Everyone made it out safely.
We
do have a bad guy. There's a villain.
There's a bad guy.
There's a villain. We're going to talk about him a little bit.
He's more like half bad, though, at the end.
He's kind of friendly. What the hell? He's a kid's movie villain,
Yeah, that's true.
They got to come around at the end a little bit. So yeah, this one, again, we talked a little bit about it. We shot this movie in Los Angeles. And this was one of those things where this is kind of a theme in my career, and I don't know if it's just me. I think this happens to a lot of people, but a lot of times when you're at your lowest point and you really are like, what the fuck am I going to do next? Like, where do I go now? Usually, hopefully, if you get lucky and you stick with it long enough and you don't quit, You know, if you don't find something else to do, as they say, you might get a little lucky, and the universe might drop something in your lap if you stick with it long enough. So this was a situation where I had made Almost Mercy, and Almost Mercy came out. And Almost Mercy got really great reviews, and it was doing well, and it was on Netflix. But guys, it's a tough business, man. And it's one of those things where you could have a great movie that gets great reviews, and it's out there, and for whatever reason, you know, it just didn't quite reach the level of success that you wanted it to. It just, you know, it wasn't trending. It wasn't on Twitter and everyone was talking about it. You know, it was a good movie that everybody liked, but it wasn't these things where, like, you know, oh, okay, I made Almost Mercy. Hollywood's gonna come a-calling now. And I'm gonna get that big phone call, and it's like, hey, we got an Avengers movie for you. You know, like in my mind, that's what I thought was gonna happen. You know, but in actuality, here I am. Okay, well, got my movie out on Netflix. That's pretty cool. Made a little money. Nothing wrong with that. We like that. But guess what, guys? That money runs out. It runs out quick, right? Especially when you're not making any. When it ain't coming in. You know, that's what we do. As filmmakers, you know, we're not going to the pay window every single week. You know, we're not putting in our 40 hours and then getting our check at the end of the week. We'll get checks. They'll come in. And you got to make it last for a long time because you don't have that next check lined up. And yes, there are things like residuals. There's things like back-end deals. But guess what, guys? That shit takes a long time to trickle in.
Right.
You can't set your watch to it. I mean, I'll get residual checks in sometimes. I'll get a couple in a week. And then sometimes I'll go months without getting a residual check. And you really can't set your watch to it. You can't build a life around it. You know,
not at all.
Paying your bills and stuff. You know, you can't pay your bills with variety articles and articles with your name in it from the Hollywood Reporter. That shit ain't going to buy you food. It's not going to buy you action figures or comic books if you're me. You know, you got to find ways to make money. So here I am. I got Almost Mercy out. I'm doing the convention scene a little bit. You know, I'm going to different conventions and, you know, trying to hump my product out there and, you know, get it out there and get people aware of it in the horror scene. And I had made a movie called Blue Line as an actor. This is we're going to talk about David Gear now because we talk about him once in a while on the show. David Gear's a friend of mine, a longtime collaborator. He's a producer. And he's made a lot of movies in Connecticut, and he's even helped me out to make quite a few movies here in Rhode Island. Well, this is one that he was doing in Connecticut. It was called Blue Line at the time. It just came out. It's actually available now. It's called The Assault. But this movie was called Blue Line. We went out. We shot it. We shot it in Connecticut. It was a Tom Sizemore heist action movie.
I love Tom Sizemore.
Yeah, Tom Sizemore is quite the character. I've had a lot of fun conversations with that cat. But, you know, this was a movie that I went out to Connecticut to do, and David's producing partner was a guy named Richard Switzer. And Richard was this young guy, you know, he's young at it's funny because this was a few years ago, and when I say he's a young guy now, that's the funny thing. I say he was a young guy back then. He's a young guy now. He's 24 years old, and it's amazing what he's been able to accomplish in a short period of time in this business. But, you know, he was very much, you know, a young kid. He was 19 years old, I think, at the time. And we went out and we worked on this movie, Blue Line. And Blue Line was one of those movies where it's your classic kind of low budget, kind of we're all in close quarters, everybody's hanging out, we're all staying, you know, in the same hotels, and we're all like a big family, big happy family. Kind of had this like camp feel. And Richard and I just really got along. You know, we hit it off. You know, me, Richard, David. And, of course, John Del Ponte was working on that movie, too, who we talk about John on the show all the time. John's my production designer, worked on a lot of my, you know, first few movies. So we all just became buddies, and, you know, we started this text chain, and we'd be texting each other after the movie and just busting balls and, like, sending each other stupid pictures. And, you know, we kind of just became tight. And we became really tight on that movie. I feel like we're probably going to do a Blue Line episode someday, so I won't get too much into it. But it was a fun movie. It was a crazy movie. There was a massive blizzard right in the middle of it. So it was one of those deals where, like, we couldn't shoot the movie for, like, days. And we were all just, like, doing the Shining kind of routine, you know, stuck in our hotel. Which, that can do one of two things. when you're with a group of people. It could either you want to kill everyone, like in The Shining, or the opposite. You guys get along like fucking gangbusters,
right?
And it's like, wow, goddamn, this was like being at summer camp for, a few days with all these crazy maniacs, and we made the most of it. And hey, the restaurant's still open, and the gas station next door had all the supplies we needed. Whatever you wanted to, roll up and smoke or whatever was available. So we had everything we needed, and we had a damn good time, and we hit it off, man. Relationships are everything in business. That's not just movies. That's the world. And, it's like that Willie Nelson song. There's a quote, making money with my friends. I mean, there's nothing better than that. When you can find a group of people that you both get along with and you're really close, and you can have a good business arrangement, that's the best case scenario. So, hit it off with Richard. We're all really close. And, here I am now, back to me trying to, figure out what my next move is. This is months after Almost Mercy has come out. Money's running out. Kind of waiting for my next move. And suddenly I get a call from Richard. And he says, hey, Tommy, listen, I got this movie. Another director was supposed to do it, but he's not available, and something happened. He had to back out. I don't even remember what happened, but the original director had to back out. And he's like, do you want to direct this movie for me? And I said, I didn't even ask him what the movie was. I was like, of course, I'm available. I'm like, what's the film? And Richard's made some action movies, and he's done some horror movies as well. So I'm figuring it's something like that. I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of some kind of dark, edgy content of some kind. Why would he call me, right?
Right.
It's called Arlo the Burping Pig. And it's about a little girl who befriends a teacup pig, and the pig talks. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah, right. That's funny, man. What's the movie about? And he's like, no, that's it. It's called Arlo the Burping Pig. It's a kid's property that I'm putting together. The demographics, 5 to 7, like little kids. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, in my mind.
Right.
But in actuality, I'm like, great! I love kids' movies. That sounds terrific. Count me in. Because guess what? Not only was this a job, but this was a movie that I could go and make in Los Angeles. This is a movie that, my dream has always been ever since I was a kid, go to LA, make a movie, be in Hollywood, that's what every filmmaker wants to be. That's the Mecca.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're a bodybuilder, you want to be lifting weights in Venice Beach. Or
right.
If you're a filmmaker, you want to be making movies in Hollywood. That's the place to be. And there's this palpable energy about LA. When you get off the plane, you can feel it. It's one of those things where whatever you want to do, the best of the best, they do it right there in LA. You can find them in LA, most likely. And there's this odd energy because whatever you're into, your dreams are one step closer to becoming true now. As crazy as that sounds and as corny as that sounds, it's like, well, no, it's not that crazy because, guess what, motherfucker? This is the same goddamn Starbucks that Name That top executive goes
comes
to,
in and gets his coffee every
Name
day.
That star. You're right where you should be, for lack of a better phrasing, So, to get a chance to direct a movie in L.A., I would have shot a movie about a talking phone book, about a phone book that talks and it can tell you people's phone numbers. And I'd be like, I'll make that phone book talk. Let's do it. So I was excited to go make this movie. So I read the script, and Richard sent me the script, and I get through it, and there were a couple of things that I wasn't sold on. One of the things creatively was the movie didn't really have a villain. It was one of these things where it was a very happy film. And you know me, I'm kind of a dark guy. I couldn't have it be that happy and positive the whole way.
Already nobody's dying, so...
Yeah, no one's dying to begin with. Nothing bad's happening. This is one of those things where I needed to do something to make it a little edgy. And, I don't care that it's a kid's movie. Some of the greatest villains of all time...
Oh, yes.
...are in kids' movies.
In kids' movies, yeah, for sure.
And it's one of those things where the movie didn't have a bad guy. It lacked a villain. So I called Richard up and I said, hey, man, I read the script. It's great. And one thing, there's not a lot of conflict in this story. I was like, is there a way that I can maybe add a couple things, tweak a couple things, and, maybe give this a little edge and give it a little more, raise the stakes, if you will. And Richard, who at the time I didn't know because I'd never worked with him, but now I know he's probably like one of the more creative producers out there. A lot of producers, you think about numbers guys, you think about dollars and cents kind of guys, above the line, below the line,
Right.
making sure everything gets sold properly, movies sold, all that. Well, Richard's a very creative guy, and he actually, he understood when I was kind of telling him some of these points. He understood, like, wow, yeah, that would be really cool if we had a bad guy, and I kind of started pitching him some of my ideas, and him and I were vibing. So this was like the first chance that I got to be creative with Richard, and that's something that, we've got a bunch of projects in development. We, just shot a movie together, and, over the years we've been, certainly one of the guys that I go to when it comes to, figuring something out creatively. So this was kind of our first time, working together like that. So I pitched him this idea. I was like, this thing needs a bad guy. We need to add some value. Now, keep in mind, this family, the pitch is this family is moving to a new town because the dad has a new job, played by Joey Lawrence. Mom, played by Jennifer Taylor, who I can't say enough great things about. And, of course, the kids are... the family's dynamic is basically these two older daughters, and then there's the younger daughter. And the younger daughter's a little afraid that she's not going to be able to acclimate to this new house, this new neighborhood, new kids, new school. And then, of course, she meets this cute pig who kind of breaks her out of her shell a little bit. And what ends up happening is that was kind of it. That was the story. And nothing bad happened. I said, we got to do something to add some terror to this family. Something. So there was this realtor character in the beginning of the movie that was kind of, small part, but it could have been something. It could have been like a fun cameo. We're going to get into that in a minute, because Bill Moseley played that realtor part. And that realtor part, I rewrote to set up the bad guy. So basically, this realtor is selling this property. Jennifer Taylor, the mom, sees this vase kind of just thrown in the bushes. And she says to herself, what's this wonderful vase? And the realtor says, well, it comes with the house if you buy it. And she's like, oh, okay, great. And he's like, and they sign the paperwork, they buy the house. Turns out, we find out that vase is like Ming Dynasty, Chinese, it's a Chinese relic.
Right,
and
super
it's worth
expensive.
millions of dollars, and it's a museum piece. And we open the movie up with this bad guy crook. He's running around, he's got the base, he doesn't know what to do, and he ditched it in the bushes. So that's how it got there in the first place. So now, our loving, leading family here is harboring this priceless relic, and they don't even know it. So now, what was an empty house, the bad guy in the beginning of the movie figures, I'll ditch this in the bushes, perfect, it's an empty house, nobody's living here, I'll come back later and I'll get it. That way, if I get picked up, if I get boosted, I won't have this illegal stolen object on me. And basically, I was trying to teach the kids, this is what you do when you break into a museum and you steal something. You don't want to be caught with the stolen goods, so you ditch it somewhere. You got to teach the kids these lessons very early on in these films. So that was kind of like the opening scene. Basically, what ends up happening is, now the new foil is this bad guy played by Mike Cerrone, who we're going to talk about him. Well, he's got to get that vase back. Otherwise, it's his ass.
Right.
He's got someone to answer to. So basically, now he's spending the whole film trying to infiltrate the family's house to retrieve his stolen priceless vase. But guess what? That pig, he ain't going to be down with that. So Arlo basically has to become the protector of this family. So you heard it for the first time now. This movie features a fighting pig.
Yes.
What did you think of the fighting pig, Daryl? Were you intimidated by him?
Not at all. Not at all.
Come on.
Not at all. The pig has some fighting skills at the end. It was an interesting twist. There was no blood, though. I was expecting gallons and gallons and gallons of blood.
But there was a cool stunt at the end where our main bad guy does this big fall through a table.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, man. He did that stunt himself. We're going to talk about that. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's talk about the team. Let's talk about production. So I get this call from Richard. And he's like, hey, man, you want to come to L.A., make this movie, pig movie? I'm allowed to change some things creatively in the script, which was terrific. The original writer by the name of Eric Weinstock, awesome guy. And he was also really cool with, allowing me to have the opportunity to go in and tweak a couple things. And, just at the end of the day, just tell a better story. That's all we're trying to do. And I got my team together. Now, the cool thing about Richard and why I was so excited about this mission was Richard's like, hey, man, I know you got a DP that you like to work with, Sam Eilertson, who shot Army of the Damned. He shot Almost Mercy. We're thick as thieves. Great. I could take him with me.
Nice.
I know you got your boy John Del Ponte, who, now keep in mind, Richard and him are like best pals. We've been on this text chain for months now, busting balls and, bullshitting and having a grand old time just about every day, texting each other. So, of course, he's coming. And we've talked about him before. Robbie Savage gets to come along on this mission. Robbie Savage, he's done a number of things. He's done everything from he's been my assistant on films. He's an editor himself. He works DIT, the DIT, if you're not familiar with that, is a very important position. It's called DIT. It's an acronym for, I think it's like, oh God, I'm going to look like a big moron here, but I think it's like digital interface technician or digital information technician, something like that. Basically, look, I know what they do, and that's all that really matters. And what they do is basically they're in charge of, remember, guys, we're not shooting on film anymore, so everything's digital. And basically these cameras have a card in them. They have a digital information card. So you take that card out. DIT is responsible for taking that card and immediately loading it onto a hard drive on their computer. So they're there with a computer, full setup, ready to go. And, they can do everything from give you a quick look at what your footage is looking like. They can add a quick color correction and be like, so if you're like, is this too dark? They can be like, well, look, no, it can look like this if you lighten it up a little. So, they're kind of like your on-board, editor / color correction technician / they're your post guy. If there was a corner man in boxing, they're like the cut man. They keep your shit in shape and make sure that you're not fucking anything up. Many a times I've gone into the DIT office and say, hey, can you pull up yesterday's scene, blah, 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 and I'll be like, all right, good, we didn't fuck that up. Or you just need to know, wait a minute, what direction was he walking in the previous scene? Okay, he went left to right, and that's okay. So DIT is very important. I digress, but Robbie Savage got to come along on this trip too. We've talked about this character before, Nick Principe, my stunt coordinator. Well, guess what? He was kind of doing double time back and forth between LA and Rhode Island. He was living out there at the time. So, of course, he's going to work on the movie, which is part of the reason why I had to figure out a way to work a stunt in. There were no stunts in this movie. And I was like, let's put our main bad guy through a table at the end. So that's why that got written in there. It was like kind of the, although I was going out to make a movie about, it's not exactly material that I don't dream of being the world's greatest talking animal director someday. But hey, if that's what I ended up being, at least I'm still a director, and that's what I always wanted to be. But my point is...
And you got to direct in Hollywood.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to do. So my point is, although this wasn't the coolest movie to make at the time, I got to direct a movie in L.A. with all my friends and a new venture, all new people. And this was kind of cool. We're going to talk about this. I get to see what an L.A. crew is like. I might as well just jump into that.
As opposed to a New York crew.
A New England crew or a New York crew. And I'm not talking any shit about my beloved New England crews. I love all these guys. But there's just some differences in Los Angeles. It's just a little different. We're going to talk about that. So we took the whole band to Los Angeles. We showed up and we had some modest accommodations. We were staying at the old 6 or the 8, Super 8. We were Super 8 in it. You know, it's nothing fancy, man. I mean, you know, that's kind of the fun. You know, you always like, you think of your first trip to Hollywood and you're thinking glitz and glam, and it's like, nope, we're going to stay at the 8 over in North Hollywood. North Hollywood. So, you know, hey, man, it is what it is. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. I was just happy to have a bed and a door that I could shut at night. And I got to be honest with you, man, I kind of like staying at seedy motels sometimes. Nobody fucks with you. You kind of like, you know, everybody's... Because here's the thing, guys. At a seedy motel, a place like that, everyone's doing their own kind of thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need to say anything else, but, like, it's kind of like they don't get in your business and you don't get in their business. Because chances are, you know, you see it all there, man. I mean, there's a lot going on at the North Hollywood Super 8. A lot of activity at night, a lot of business ventures going on, many different types of transactions taking place all around me. But, you know, hey, it's one of those things where don't fuck with and thou shalt not be fucked with.
Indeed.
So, you know, kind of just did our thing and we were hanging out. And, I mean, we were on set so much that it never mattered. You know, we were rocking out, you know, 14-hour days. You got to shoot a movie in 12 days, guys. You know what that's like? It's fucking madness. So we were working pretty damn hard over at the 8. And you're not going to believe this, guys, but this is probably, you know, when I tell people this that are in the business, this is the part that kind of shocks them the most. We got there on a Monday, and we started shooting on Thursday. So I prepped a Tuesday and a Wednesday. That was it. 2 prep days. Maybe call it 2.5, because we did do, believe it or not, I got off the fucking plane. They picked me up, and I went right into a production meeting.
Oh, wow.
Like right away.
They weren't wasting any time with this one.
At the 8. Right? In the Super 8. Like, you know, you get your, you know where they serve, like, the shitty continental breakfast? We were fucking holding up right in there. 11 o'clock, the guy who ran the place, he was cool. He was like, yeah, you guys can work here. I don't give a shit. And we had a fucking production meeting right in the lobby of the Motel 8. You know, right by the big plastic containers of Captain Crunch. You know? Like, just doing our thing. So, prepping this movie in 2 days required, obviously, we're going to scout some locations, right?
Right.
What the fuck where are we shooting this movie?
Where?
Now, here's what I learned about Los Angeles. In Rhode Island, for the most part, you can get away with anything in terms of, like, you know, oh, we don't have a permit, but hold on, let me get one today, and I'll get one by tomorrow, we'll have one, and a quick little, you know, a couple phone calls, some paperwork, or, hey, on the side, oh, no, it's okay, you guys can film here, no big deal, whatever. In Los Angeles, it's not easy to get a permit, and they will ask you, they will pull permits on you. They will come right up to you. Cops will come right up to you and say, where's that permit?
Wow.
Whereas in Rhode Island, if you're filming something and a cop sees you, they're going to pull it and they're going to say, oh, what are you guys doing? What are you guys working on? You say, oh, we're making a movie. They'll say, oh, that's cool. They might even make a little joke like, oh, you need any cops? And then they'll laugh. They'll smile at you. And they'll say, all right, have a nice day. And then they'll move along.
Right.
Whereas in L.A., they're pulling over and say, hey, guys, where's your permits? And it's just like, that's what they do. That's part of their normal policing activities is to check for permits. Because there's so many motherfuckers trying to film out there without a permit. So that's a major source of revenue that they got to keep their eyes on.
It's got to be a dirty cop circuit of guys who just
like, hey, buddy,
collect money from people filming.
Well, half the cops in L.A. are probably actors, probably more than half. So you could probably be like, hey, officer, tell you what, I'll catch you in my next part if you maybe look the other way. And then cut to you're in handcuffs, being thrown over a fucking hood, you know. And you're like, can I use this footage from your body cam to cut into my movie?
I'm sure that there's definitely some dirty guys out there, though. They keep the underground.
Hey, you know what? I don't want to call them dirty. I want to call them good guys. Those are good guys. They're just like, right. Let you kids look like you're up to no. Yeah.
I'll be back tomorrow for my other money.
Yeah, you're not causing any trouble. Now, what do you say? You just give me Mr. Franklin, and I'll be on my way. But yeah, so we had 2 days to prep the movie. We're doing some location scouting. This is a funny story. I showed up to our first house. Now keep in mind, I need a family home that looks like, look at our wonderful new home. This is terrific. We don't live in a crammed... I think the premise was they had been living in like an apartment in the city, and now, oh, wow, look, we've got a house, we've got a backyard, this is cute. Picturesque bullshit, right?
Right.
Show up to the first house, like, oh, we got this house, it's great, you're gonna love it. I go in, first off, the outside, I'm like, this is kind of funky, man. This is a funky looking fucking house. House looked like, all these, kind of modern edges and glass walls and architectural. Just a funky looking place. Like, looked like the kind of place that, if you were like a single dude and you wanted to like have crazy parties there, you'd be like, this is a great
place,
spot for me.
Right.
Not like I've got my 3 little girls and we're gonna go move in and my wife and I are gonna raise a family here. It wasn't that kind of look from the outside. Well, guess what? When I go inside, I find out why it had that look. This place was a functioning porno studio.
Nice.
They had shot pornos in this place.
And they wanted you to shoot a kids movie there?
Yes. Now listen, it was a house. This dude lived there. That's how it is in L.A. People will live in their house normally, and like rather than do an Airbnb, well, they'll rent their shit out to a movie company, and whether it be an adult movie company or a regular movie company. But for this house in particular, they shot a lot of porno in this place, and you could tell, man. I mean, it was one of those places where like. And I'm not getting gross, you can tell. What I mean by that is, it looked like a fucking porno set, okay? You had, your massive living room with the cubes of glass walls and sexy couch and fucking bearskin rugs. And the fucking walls had paintings of, like, they were very tastefully done. But, beautiful naked women tastefully photographed on the wall. I'm like, I looked at the fucking locations guy. I'm like, we're making a fucking kids movie. Like, are you fucking serious? Do you know how much production design work would go into just making that look like a friendly, cozy place? Like, I got a goddamn fucking bearskin wall, practically a fucking stripper pole in the corner, and you want me to shoot a kids movie here? So, I literally walked in and out of it in probably 10 minutes. And I just looked to... I think Richard, and I was just like, man, this isn't gonna work, we just can't do it here. And again, like, Richard's the man at just like solving problems and getting shit done. He's got this, we have this great kind of little inside joke. We call each other brother like crazy, like, brother, it's getting done. And he's got this great line that he always uses, and we've kind of shortened it up now, where he just goes, brother, writing email now. And it just means like, I'm gonna take care of that, you know what I mean? Like,
nice.
And we laugh, that's our little inside thing. And sure enough, an hour later, 2 hours later, I pull up to this cute, quaint little house it was actually in North Hollywood, which wasn't too far from the 8 where we were staying. It was like 20 minutes away, which in LA time, that's like 2 minutes away for everywhere else. That's like a short, peaceful fucking ride, 20 minutes. So... it was kind of great, it was a pretty little house, looked like it, it was like a single couple living there, young single couple, but it was close enough where we could bring in a few elements, meaning, a couple pieces of furniture, a few decorations, and make it look more like Mom decorated it, rather than Tracy Lords decorated it. Or,
right.
That was a really...
That's an obscure reference,
really obscure porno reference there from 1988, but, it didn't look like a porno set. It looked like,
like a family could live there.
The fam lives there. So we got that all set up, and now I at least know where I'm shooting. So, like, for filmmakers that are listening to this, that's really half the battle, right? I mean, you can plan till you're blue in the face. You can draw every goddamn diagram you want of how you want the shots to go. But you may show up to the location, and there might be a giant fucking wall right in the way of where you wanted to do that beautiful tracking shot. There might be a staircase there, or there might not be a staircase where you thought there would be, or a window that isn't there. So a lot of times, like, until you're in the space and you're actually walking the grounds, you don't really know what the fuck you're doing necessarily. It's all kind of just conversation. You could plan for every possible scenario. You could be ready to, mold into any direction. But until you walk the set, you can't really experience what that's going to be like. So it was nice to finally be like, all right, this is where I'm shooting. And then, for me, I'm a very visual thinker, and most filmmakers are. What the fuck? If you're not, what are you doing? Probably in the wrong business. So, like...
Just write books.
Yeah, go do something else. So, once I saw what it looked like, I could go back to the hotel and draw pictures, and, I had photographs, so Sam Eilertson, my DP, and I could really, map out all of our shots. John Del Ponte immediately went to work, again, making it look like a family had been, moving in. And, keep in mind, guys, none of this shit exists. That's my favorite thing about a movie. In the beginning, nothing's there. It's empty. Right. When I say it, I mean everything. But in actuality, to make this illusion work, we need to make it look like this family has things. They've got belongings. They have shit that they took with them.
They've moved away from another place.
Boxes and stuff and crap. And guess what? Somebody's got to go build all that. They got to go get all that stuff. And that was John's job. And John did a really great job of, that was actually an advantage. Part of it was, well, shit, this family's moving in. This whole movie takes place in, the first couple weeks of the move. For the first part of the movie, let's just fucking load this place up with cardboard boxes everywhere. And we can just have empty cardboard boxes. Doesn't cost us anything. That's cheap. Right. For a couple $100, you could build a goddamn skyscraper of boxes. So, we just loaded up the main room with boxes, and then it allowed us to have this, Act 2 transitional break where, okay, now the boxes are gone, the family has moved in, the furniture's there. So it's kind of it bought our production team time to, go acquire certain things, like a couch that they liked and some artwork. It kind of bought them a couple days because we knew that the living room's just going to be loaded with boxes that first set for the most part. Right. So that was kind of a fun little, sometimes one of my favorite things about making movies is when something is both functional and visually functional. It's functional from a production standpoint, meaning, well, shit, we don't have enough stuff to make this room look like a family lives here. Right. That's the problem, right? Well, solution, we load it up with cardboard boxes. It's dirt cheap. It looks good. It makes sense, right?
Right. It makes sense for the move-in part. Helps push the story along.
Yeah, and you can easily write kitchen supplies and, Katie's room or whatever on the side of the box and not actually have to put anything in the fucking box. So, John got to work on that. It was fun. I did get to, we're going to talk about the pig in a minute, but, one of the fun things that I got to do was go with John. And, in the script it might say, the pig plays with toys. But we don't really, you got to, go out and get those toys. What toys will it be? How does this work? So it was fun to be, in Target in the little girl toy section and, taking, a Barbie Jeep and rolling it up and down the hallway, or the aisle, I should say, with John, and, looking at John, who's, this big, burly, bearded dude, and being and I'm there's, little girls shopping with their moms, and I'm I think a pig will fit in here. What do you think? And he's I don't know. That pig's it might be kind of big for that thing. You think? And we're what do these people think we're doing right now?
Right. Having a conversation about putting a pig in a Barbie Jeep.
Yeah, where are these
Target?
Guys? And we don't look like the types of guys who would be especially John. I mean, he's got tattoos all over his arms. This guy, what is this guy doing with this Barbie Jeep and this pig? So there was a lot of that on this movie. But we prepped it in a couple days. And we rocked it out, man. I think it probably makes sense to dive into a little pig talk now and talk about what that was like.
First time working with an animal?
This was not my first time working with an animal. There was a dog in Army of the Damned. He was in a couple scenes. He didn't really do anything. He literally just sat there. So, technically, I've had animals in the movies before, but really working with the animal to where, it's a fucking moving, functioning character, yes, this was it. And, let me tell you something. I had no fucking clue what I was getting into.
Now, I know, a lot of sets, if they have dogs or whatever, they have the trainers. Is there, a pig trainer in Hollywood that trains pigs?
We had an animal trainer by the name of Susan. Shout out to Susan, who was a very nice lady. She arrived the first day that we needed the pig. She arrived in a van. And in the van, kind of pulls up to set, and we notice that it's basically a farm inside of a van. You know, it's like a petting zoo on wheels. It's like, you know, it's all hay in the back, and I hear this high-pitched squealing noise, which I'm not going to do for you right now because it'll immediately... The three people that listen to this podcast will immediately shut the fucking thing off if I start squealing. But when I tell you, it was the most shrill, blood-curdling, sounding, high-pitched scream that it actually sounded like there were, like, you know, like someone was being, like, strangled to death inside the van. This thing was making all kinds of fucking noise. Now, wouldn't you know it, the pig makes his first appearance on the same day that we're shooting this scene at the schoolyard where there's, like, you know, a scene where the bully in the movie, this little girl, gets her comeuppance, basically. She's talking some smack to the pig, and the pig burps in her face so loud that it literally knocks her off her feet. You know, that's kind of like...
It was hilarious.
It's kind of like the fun moment. And he's cute. He goes, "Hey, don't you gotta get personal now?" Because she's insulting him. Drake Bell does the voice. He was awesome. We're gonna wrap in the wrap up part of the show. We'll talk about what that was like because that happened all after the fact. But so first day we got the pig. Kids are everywhere. You know, they're excited. You know, kids naturally are gonna get excited, and they know that, you know, a live animal is going to be coming on set. I was excited.
They don't even care what it is.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh my god, a pig's coming! A pig's coming!" Yeah, exactly. So they're all excited. Susan opens up the back of the door, and this pig just is screaming its face off. Just fucking screaming. Just like squealing, snorting, screaming. And I think I looked at John, or I looked at Sam, one of my, you know, tight-knit guys, you know, I was like shooting the movie with or whatever. I looked at him, I said, "How the fuck are we ever going to shoot this thing if it's going to do that?"
The whole time.
Like, how the fuck is this ever going to work? And I was just, so that one moment when he wouldn't shut up for 5 minutes. I mean, screaming, squealing, this for straight 5 minutes. And I guess, you know, he just needed to adjust a little bit. They brought him back in the mobile petting zoo van, and they gave him a little food. They calmed him down a little bit. And then, okay, they took him back out. He was a little more chill. He was a little more calm.
He had to warm up to the space.
The little girl kind of like held him. You know, Lindsay, she was our star. She got acclimated to the pig. And the pig got acclimated to her is really what it was. And then, okay, he chilled out. And I was like, whew, goddamn, that could have been very, very scary. Because you never know what you're going to get. Look, you could be the best trainer in the world, but you're dealing with animals, guys. They're not trained actors, and sometimes they're just going to have a bad fucking day. I mean, we have bad days.
Right, they're just going to do their own thing.
Yeah, they ain't acting today.
Right? No. Let me just sit over here.
Eat my hay.
Squeal a bunch.
So this guy's squealing his face off. Get him to calm down. We shoot the scene, and everything's great. And from there on out, for the most part, the pig was great. I'd say the pig was great about 70% of the time, but we did have some pig incidents. And, you know, I think maybe I'll save those for a little bit later in the show. But, you know, we're going to move along. But we did have about...
I have a question about that.
There was a few... Well, should we just do it now? You want to get into it?
I just want to know if the pig bit anybody, because pigs are generally...
Not only did the pig bite, but it scratched and kicked with its hoof like a fucking mule. And the strength of that motherfucker... You have no idea the unbridled strength of a tiny little...
small little pig.
But we'll get into that. We'll get into that, because that happened more towards the end of the run. Now, keep in mind, guys, when the pig showed up, it was very small. You know, you could probably fit it, I don't want to say in the palm of your hand, but if you cupped both of your hands, it could probably stand in both of your hands, like, at that point. Or you know, definitely just... Now I'm like trying to think back, but yeah, it was about that big. It wasn't big at all on day one. But here's the thing, guys. This was a baby pig, and they grow incredibly fast. By the time we finished the show, it was only a 12-day shoot, but there's a couple days off in between, so it was almost like 3 weeks later. The fucking pig probably almost tripled in size, doubled in size. Like, the thing got big. Like, sizably big. Like noticeably bigger, to the point where it was like, this pig's fucking growing. Like, maybe, it's like, Susan, maybe we stop feeding it a little bit. Are we feeding the pig too much? It looks like a different pig.
Was it just a baby pig, or was it an actual teacup pig?
Well, look, I don't want to talk any smack about the animal services there, but it wasn't really a teacup pig. It was a baby pig that they, kind of just played off as a teacup pig. But when it, became the size of the common house dog by week 2, we were like, this is not a fucking teacup pig. What kind of bullshit is this? So, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I want to get into the cast, because this was actually a really great cast, and it came together fast. So, Joey Lawrence was already attached. Joey Lawrence plays the dad. Everybody remembers Joey Lawrence from Blossom, but he's done so many things. He's one of those guys who, he's a pop culture icon. He really is. I mean, everybody knows who Joey Lawrence is. Especially if you're, you're around my age, you're a 90s kid.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know Joey Lawrence. Everybody knows his catchphrase. It's whoa. You know the whoa. Can't say whoa. It's not one of those things that, it's kind of like he's heard it so much that it's just... Yeah, he doesn't want to hear that anymore. And I don't blame him, man. I get it. It's like, you hate to think that... Imagine if one thing that you did 25 years ago, when you're a kid, basically, becomes like the goddamn identifying factor of your entire life, and that's all you hear your whole life.
It seems to be the thing, though, with like a lot of teen actors. They have like their one little catchphrase, and it just travels with them
forever.
And
that's just it. And hey,
I mean, at least be famous for one thing than to be famous for nothing, I guess.
That's true. And, I'm sure it's one of those things where even though he gets annoyed by it, he probably does appreciate the fact that the fans give a shit about it, and they care. So Joey was really cool to work with, and he anchored the movie. You got to have a star like Joey in a movie like this. It kind of, from a financial standpoint, it gets the movie sold, so to speak, and it kind of, his name on the DVD cover is sort of one of those things where it makes a distribution company say, oh wow, this is great, we can work with this. So it was cool to have Joey on board. Jennifer Taylor played his wife, played the mom. And Jennifer Taylor is just such an awesome actress to work with. She gets things so quickly. It's one of those things where, there were some rewrites, so the script that she got, from her agent probably wasn't quite the script that she got on the day, and she was really able to adjust quickly and make that work. And it was cool, too, because keep in mind, I don't know this family content for shit at this time. I'm kind of like, I just done 3 really dark movies, and but working with this is a new genre for me altogether.
Still trying to figure it out.
I'm still trying to figure out. And there were a couple of times where Jennifer was really cool, and of course she always took me aside and was like, hey, look, I'm just telling you because I'm a mom, but I think she would probably do this here. Or like, I don't think she would ever do this because, mom would... And she just gave me like the inside track to like what would really happen for a mom. Because here I am, I think when I directed this, I don't know, I was like probably, a pretty young guy when I made this movie, 30 years old, not even... What the hell do I know about how mom interacts with her kids and, how they would deal with this situation? So... Jennifer was really cool at kind of understanding that I didn't get that fully and kind of being like, hey, listen, maybe this should be like this and maybe this should be like that. We call that a fallacy in the movie business. When something is written a certain way and it just wouldn't happen like that in real life, that's a fallacy. And it's kind of like we all know this is fake, what we're watching. We're watching something be played out, a story be told. But when you have a bunch of fallacies in the writing, well, then it's really taking us out of the illusion. And it's hard for us to believe in anything. Because we're like, hey, come on. No one's going to fucking do that in that situation. And then how can I believe anything that happens from then on? Because,
you kind of check out of the movie once it does something like that. Could never happen.
Exactly. And everything else after that now hinges on that one piece of bullshit. So Jennifer was really cool at helping me avoid some of those pitfalls, and making the movie have a little bit more depth, as much depth as it could for a talking pig movie.
Yes.
And that's what, your job as an actor and as a filmmaker is. It doesn't matter if it is, a talking animal movie. You still have to put your creative spin on it and, take the time to make something that, a little kid is going to see. And I told myself this a couple times on the last kids movie that I did, Spy Dog. I was like, you know what? Some of these kids movies, they may not be the best movies in the world. And, they're not going to get any critical acclaim, and you're not going to hear about them, on Twitter, and nobody's going to do Instagram stories or aren't going to be lighting up Arlo the Burping Pig. But some of these movies might be that one movie that some little 5-year-old kid watches every day.
Every day, yeah. Twice a day, 3 times a day.
Yeah, like they might have that movie that we all have those movies that as a little kid we would just watch over and over. And they might not even be good. And some of them like people haven't even heard of. But for whatever reason, you love that fucking movie, and it's your daily routine when you're drinking your juice box and you get your sandwich, that thing's on, playing with your toys. So, that was for me like the little bit of, that made me feel good. Like maybe this movie is one of those movies that some little kid was just watching over and over again, and it's their introduction to films. It's their introduction to, keep in mind, most kids that age, they've kind of only seen cartoons.
Right.
We were told when we made this movie, like, hey, we kind of want this to be, this is their early introduction to live action film. So it's kind of fun. You get a little responsibility there. Show these little guys what a story.
Right. Did you do any research, like, as far as, like, did you watch, like, other
I did. I
movies?
watched some kids' movies, especially some talking kids' movies, to see kind of, like, what you can get away with and what you can't. Obviously, we watched Babe, about Babe and Babe Pig in the City, and that was the sequel, if anyone remembers that one.
There was a sequel?
Babe Pig in the City.
Oh, my goodness.
Take that pig and put him in the city. That's basically the premise right there.
Yeah, basically.
So, it was fun to kind of play in that space. So back to the cast, we talked about Joey Lawrence, who's just pretty bit of a, like we said, he's a pop culture icon. So if you got him in your movie, for me to just automatically be like, people be like, oh, who's in that movie you're going to do? Joey Lawrence. No shit. It's like they know who he is immediately. And guess what? That immediately elevates your film. And it makes every female cousin that I have get very jealous of me and say, oh my God, you need to get me a picture of Joey Lawrence. Because, guys, he was, Joey was on the cover of pretty much every
teen magazine
for a long stretch. I mean, it was pretty wild. I mean, I remember being a little kid and going to the supermarket and just seeing his face plastered everywhere.
You're probably on thousands of bedroom walls.
Yeah, the posters. That's right.
From the posters that come in like Teen Beat.
Damn, man.
All those old
Teen
school
Beat,
magazines.
YM magazine.
Yeah.
Tiger Beat. Damn. I wonder, they probably still exist, those people. Write us at the show. Does Tiger Beat magazine still exist? Okay, let's see here. Rest of this cast we're going to get into is... so we talked a little bit about that cameo in the beginning of the movie. I had just done a movie with Bill Moseley, and I knew that he was out in L.A. He lives in Los Angeles, obviously, and Richard was like, hey, we're trying to get a name to play that realtor, just to come in and, be a fun little quirky scene. It's early in the movie, so it's like nice sometimes to put as many name actors as you can early, because it's kind of like the audience might be like, well, this builds a little credibility for your film early on. So, although Bill Moseley isn't really known in the kids space, I thought about him. And it was one of those things where Richard was like, I think we can get a name for the opening. Do you have any ideas? And I said, what do you think about Bill Moseley? He's like, Bill Moseley. He's like, well, not really, big in the kids' world, but maybe the parents would be, some of the parents might be like, oh, no shit, that's Bill Moseley, and think it's kind of cool. And, Richard saw the kind of uniqueness to maybe having a guy like that be in a kid's movie, because it is so different. Because, again, if you don't know Bill Moseley's a guy who's been in The Devil's Rejects, and he's really just known for his... Well, he's been in a ton of Rob Zombie movies, and he's known for his horror movies playing sick, twisted, fucked up characters. So Bill kind of came in and he did his thing, and we did this bit where he kind of said to me, he's selling the house, and he's like, yeah, I'd like to have donuts. I'm like, what? He's like, I'd love if my character could have a box of donuts when he shows up. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, and I came up with this little bit. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, buy the house and you get a free box of donuts. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of oddly funny and clever and cute. It's a kid's movie. And he's like, it's a kid's movie. And I'm like, all right, let's get this man some donuts. I go, let's go to a PA. I go, all right, we're going to get this guy some donuts. I go, Bill, what kind of donuts do you like? He goes, let's go with old fashioned. And I go, nice choice. Now, guys, when you're listening to this, what do you consider an old fashioned donut?
The Dunkin' donut, the no glaze, nothing, just
correct.
Dip it in some coffee or whatever.
Correct. That's what I figured an old fashioned donut was. This fucking PA shows up with a box of like crawlers or something. They weren't donuts. They were I don't know what the fuck they were, but they weren't donuts. They looked like a crawler or like a Danish almost. The only way I can explain it is it had like a waffling type texture to the top, like crisscrossed dough on like a big piece of fried dough. It was the right color of an old-fashioned donut, but it wasn't a fucking donut at all. There was no fucking hole in it.
Wow.
You gotta have a fucking hole. To be a donut, by definition, you need to have a fucking circular hole in the middle of the donut. Without that fucking hole, you're just a piece of pastry. You're no longer a fucking donut.
Not a donut. You're a cake.
You're a cake, you're Danish, you're glazed, but you're not a fucking donut. So I took this to Bill, and I said, Bill, I'm really sorry, man. This is unacceptable. He goes, what's this? And the kid, I felt bad for the kid. I don't remember his name. And listen, I'm not hating on the kid. He was just trying to do his job. But he goes, I'm really sorry. I went to the bakery and I said I need an old-fashioned donut. And they said, well, this is the old-fashioned donut. This is how we used to make them. And I said, I don't give a fuck how they used to make them. I didn't ask for a history lesson on donuts.
He went to like an artisan donut shop.
I don't know
go
what,
to Dunkin' Donut.
Yeah, he tried to... Listen, sometimes we try to go above and beyond, and we end up really just missing the mark. That's why, like, if you ever have a question, just ask.
He had to be young, too, because who doesn't know what an old-fashioned...
Yeah, he was a kid. He was 20-something. Maybe 20, you know?
You've probably never even seen an old-fashioned donut. But they have Google now. Just Google
that shit. So, we sent him out again. He went and got the right donuts. And it was great, man. We put the donuts on, and we even got this little insert shot where as he drives off, this was another, I guess I can't take credit for this was Bill's idea. As he drives off, he's like, all right, guys, see you later. And he leaves the box of donuts on the roof, but then gets in his car and forgets them and drives off. And they perfectly cascaded out of the box and like rolled and spun, and we got like a nice insert shot of it. So the donuts played. It was well worth it, and I'm glad we got Bill Moseley in this movie. Then we had Mike Cerrone. Let's talk about Mike Cerrone. So, guys, you don't even fucking realize this, but Mike Cerrone wrote some of the greatest comedies of all time. Mike Cerrone is a writer on movies like Me, Myself, and Irene.
Really?
He's a writer on movies like Dumb and Dumber 2. He's the writer of the Three Stooges movie that came out. He was a great influence on the Farrelly brothers. He's worked with them for many, many years. Longtime collaborator with the Farrellys. And he's just one of these guys who is probably the most wildly funny human beings I've ever been in a room with. He's a force of nature. He is a hybrid of John Belushi meets Chris Farley meets, a little bit of Bill Murray at times. And he's just this wild, funny force of nature. And he lives in L.A., and I kind of had him in mind to play this bad guy part that I had written. So it's one of those things where I hadn't talked to him in a while, but I reached out to him, and I have a mutual friend, shout out to Ryan Murphy, who also reached out to him, and, we kind of had like a coalition to get Mike in this movie.
Nice.
And got him the script, and he thought it was pretty cool, and sure enough, made a deal with him. and got him in the movie. And, he's also an actor. In addition to being a writer, he's just such a funny motherfucker. And I just knew he would kill this part. And as, Mike can be raunchy, and Mike can be, as bit of a man's man as they come when it comes to that kind of humor. But he's also a dad, and, he's raised kids before, and he's got this real lovable side to him, too, where he can be a teddy bear that, a little kid could laugh at. And, he can play that part, too. So he could get the entire barbershop laughing their balls off, or he could go and, get a kindergarten to be laughing and have it be totally appropriate. He's just a really funny guy, and he played that villain that, steals the Chinese vase that's worth millions of dollars, which, by the way, not every movie, but every once in a while I'll see a prop. I try to do it on every movie, but there have been some movies that I want to forget that I haven't done this. But just about every movie, there'll be like that one prop that I really kind of want to keep, and I'll put it in like a showcase in my house or something like that. And for this, the one thing that I kept was the vase, because we had to find. Remember, this is another part of filmmaking. Little backstory here is, if you're gonna say you got a vase that's worth millions of dollars, it's got to look halfway fucking decent, right?
Right.
We had to order this vase that was a knockoff of a Ming Dynasty vase, which, guess what? Even a knockoff's not cheap. We had to put a little money into this thing. But I knew that, like, if that didn't look right, then the whole fucking storyline, it's like, why do it?
Right.
So we spent the money to make it work. And I wasn't about to, just have that vase sit in some fucking prop house. So I shipped it home. I took it, put it in a box, shipped it back to my house in Rhode Island, and I got that vase sitting right in my dining room.
Nice.
But we did have a great cast. I got to talk about Lindsay Blanchard, who was the little girl in this movie, who super talented. She's got an awesome family, awesome parents that are super supportive. Her mom was awesome to have on set, Gretchen, and she was just such a trooper with dealing with this animal, because at first the animal was cute and cuddly and fun, but it got a little intense, and she was able to stay focused and battle back. And I mean, naturally, she's just a great actress, and she crushed her part. And I actually did another movie with Lindsay. We're going to talk about it. It's actually on our next episode. Nice little plug for the next one. But Lindsay stars in Saving Christmas, which is my Christmas album that we're going to talk about next week on the show, or in a couple weeks. But yeah, we had Lindsay Blanchard in there. Nick Principe does a little cameo. We talked about Joey Lawrence already. And John Hennigan was in this movie. So wrestling fans out there, if you're a fan of WWE, if you're a fan of Lucha Underground, you'd know John Hennigan. You might know him from his wrestling name, which was Morrison. And he's just a really cool guy that, again, David Gear worked on this one. I believe he was an executive producer on this one. And he got us hooked up with John. And, it was just really cool to work with him. And, again, he's a wrestler. I'm a big fan of wrestlers. And not that he did a major stunt, but I was kind of like, well, shit, we got to do something with this guy. So, like, at the end of the movie, he needs to, come to the rescue, because he plays like this painter who ends up kind of being, one of the good guys in the movie at the end. And I was like, hey, man, do you think you can jump over that fence? Like, just leap over it? And he's like, definitely. I'm like, do you want to rehearse it? And he's like, nah, I'll save it for the take. And I'm like, all right, cool. So then he, like, does this, like, half a parkour jump, like, just leaps over this fucking fence, and it was awesome. And I was like, yeah, great. So, like, hey, we talked about it a little bit on the last show, but it's just about production value. Like, if you have a little extra something, if one of your guys can do something special, or got any special talents or abilities,
right.
Find a way to use it. If you get this super athletic guy that can fucking leap fences in single bounds, well, fuck, why not?
Gotta find a way to put that in.
Put that in your movie. It's value. So yeah, we, John Hennigan was in this movie. Lindsay Lamb, in Castile Landon were the daughters. And you know who was really cool to work with? The teacher was played by Tracy Nelson. And she was super talented, really great. We crushed that scene that she had. But what a lot of fans won't know, what I didn't know until Richard told me, is she is rock and roll legend Ricky Nelson's daughter.
Oh, wow.
So, like, you know, younger listeners out of the three that listen to us, you probably don't know Ricky Nelson, but Ricky Nelson at one time was right up there with Elvis. He was right up there with, basically he was a teen idol in the 1950s, sold a ton of albums. And this was back in the 50s when, like, there weren't necessarily actors or musicians. They were entertainers. These guys were fucking doing it all. So
they
Ricky
movies,
Nelson,
they had songs.
yeah, he's in a cowboy movie. He's doing them songs. So that's Ricky Nelson's daughter, Tracy Nelson. She was super talented. We loved her. And then, you know, Amber Frank was in this movie too. She plays sort of like one of the it girls. And Amber Frank's done a ton of work. She's the voice of... I can't say that I've seen this one, but I know that it's very popular among the little girls of the world. But she is the voice of Lucky Prescott in Spirit Riding Free, which is a movie about I think it's a horse movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you probably.
It's a horse movie.
Yeah. So she's one of the horses in that, and they got. Apparently, I didn't realize this, but you know they got action figures, they got dolls.
It's a big production.
It's a big deal. Yeah, and she's like one of the main characters, and she just played a cheerleader, and you know, it's kind of fun when you work with people like that are super talented because this is before she did any of the Spirit stuff, and she had done some really big stuff at the time. You know, she was a child actor, but you know, it was one of those things where I could tell that this girl had a lot of ability, and you know, it wasn't a question that she was going to do great things. She was just came onto set, got her lines, rocked it out, you know, gave me a couple of different variations, and it's one of those things where you get an actor like that on set, it's like makes your job a lot easier as a director. Kind of just like they almost look at you like, what else? Like, did I do it wrong? It's like, no, I don't need anything else. You killed it.
Way to crush it.
Yeah, like what could I? How could I do anything else other than that? What could we do to make that better? So the cast was great, man. It was a really well put together, thoughtful cast, and I guess now it makes sense to talk about. Although he wasn't on set, and we worked with him in post production, Drake Bell, who did the voice of our loving pig here. Drake Bell in a big TV show, The Adventures of Drake and Josh. Is it Drake and Josh or Josh and Drake? I'm sorry, guys. I'm old. That was before. That was after my time. But apparently, bro, and we might get some heat from some of our younger listeners. But The Adventures of Drake and Josh was a big fucking deal. It was like
was it Nickelodeon?
It was like of
Disney.
It was like of Full House. Drake and Josh. Suddenly Brothers. It was like, you know, Boy Meets World of that generation.
Oh,
I think. Okay. I might be misspeaking, but I think it was a pretty big fucking show. And yeah, you know, this kid's done a ton of work. He's a super talented guy. He's also a musician, great guitar player, sings. He was the voice of Spider-Man in one of the animated series. So he does a lot of voice work. He's, you know, kind of a jack of all trades. He played Ultimate Spider-Man, and that ran, you know, it was a short series that ran for 104 episodes. I mean, that's no joke right there.
That's a good amount of work.
That's getting a lot of work right there. So, it was evident that this guy had done a ton of voiceover work, because when I tell you, he literally came into the booth, and I'd say in less than 2 hours, the entire movie was voiced over.
Wow.
You know, hour 50 minutes.
That's efficient.
You know, and that's like with a 15-minute break or 10-minute break in the middle. It was just like, he just went in and did it. I mean, you know, look, the guy was Spider-Man. He's fucking Peter Parker.
Yeah, he obviously knows what he's doing.
So, like, he can definitely come in and be Arlo the Burping Pig in no time. So I really liked working with Drake. And it's pretty funny. It's another guy where we had mentioned we got some. This movie has a couple of kind of bookends of pop culture. It's like you've got Joey Lawrence for people that are kind of more towards like my age group.
Right.
My age range would know about Joey, and people my sister's age and that range. And then you've got Drake Bell, where people maybe 10 years younger than me would know about, and he's kind of like a pop culture icon. That show was massive. And then you've got kids even maybe 10 years younger than that with Spirit, Amber Frank's show, which is popular with little kids right now. So it's like, it's kind of funny how this movie kind of has a large reach of kind of pop culture.
Yeah, there's a lot of familiar names from the
kind of different little spaces like pro wrestling, or you got John Hennigan in there. So it's a really cool cast that Richard put together. But yeah, it is cool to think about that. And you even got you kind of have a horror movie icon in there too. You have Bill Moseley. So it's like quite the eclectic little group to come together and make a talking pig movie in Los Angeles. So quick wrap up. We'll talk about post-production. This movie was edited in Rhode Island. So we shot the movie in LA. Took them hard drives all the way back home with us. And Sam Eilertson and I worked on the movie for probably, I think 5 weeks maybe. It was about 5 weeks of, back and forth cuts and put it together. And what ended up happening was the movie was actually a little short. It was a little, didn't quite... I like to keep things on the tighter side of things rather than have a movie drag ever. So the runtime was a little short. And we're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then I remember a lot of like the kids' movies that I loved would always have... Anyway. Well, they'd have this animated opening.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have this kind of like cartoon opening with all the titles and a cool song, and they'd get me, I'm ready to watch a movie now. They give me that feeling. And I said, how do we do that? I said, and Sam's like, well, I can do some simple animation if you can find an artist. And I'm like, fuck yeah. So shout out to Alex Hoey, guy who I met doing conventions. He's one of these guys who is super talented, does a lot of different types of animation, leans more towards the cartoon side of things, and has always loved his work. And he's a hell of a guy, too. And, the only animator I really knew at the time. So I said, Alex, what do you think, man? Can you put together some characters? And I sent him a cut of the movie, and he drew me some characters, like, from the film. And each character in the movie had their own little cartoon, and we had the pig cartoon, and we kind of, like, have a little retelling of the story in very simple animation for this opening title sequence that, guess what? That's like an extra 5 minutes I just added to the movie.
Absolutely.
So that was a way to jack that up. I guess, we could talk about... There's a couple other things. I got my notes here. You hear me flipping pages. It's one of those things, guys, where so much happens on these movies, and, for us to fit it all in to like an hour, it's tough. That's why, we might come back to some of these someday. I don't know if we'll come back to this one ever. But we may come back to it. You never know.
How many people did the pig bite? Because pigs are like ornery little animals.
It's true. We really should talk about that damn pig and its violence on set, because I did say that we were going to talk about that. So I'll get right into it. Basically, early on, the pig was fine, and it was happy, it was content, we were feeding it, and that's kind of the trick, guys. Look, I didn't know about this stuff until I did the movie, but basically, you're baiting these animals with food. That's how they do shit for you.
Yeah.
You give them food, they do something you want it to do. So it had been kind of fat and happy, and I think after a few days it kind of took the feedings for granted a little bit, and it kind of like was expecting the food, and that's what the trainer kind of surmised. And it got cranky, and Lindsay, our little girl, was holding the pig, and it kind of like nipped her a little bit. Just bit her.
Jeez.
And I remember she like put the thing down, and to Lindsay's credit, I gotta say, she didn't throw it. She didn't punt the thing. She didn't get mad at it. You know, she kind of like gently put it down and was like, ow. And like, you know, we're like, oh, wow. And, you know, like I said, Lindsay's a gamer because a lot of kids, you could have lost them right there.
I'm not even a kid if this pig bites me.
Yeah, like,
done for the day.
Yeah, you want me to get back into a scene with this thing? So the pig calmed down and chilled out. And, you know, Lindsay, you know, you could tell she was a little hesitant, but, you know, still wanted to, she loves acting and wanted to make the day work out. And she kind of did her thing, and the pig fortunately cooperated for the most part. And then we had another situation last day. It was crazy, guys. You know, we had to do a lot of work on the last day of this movie. I remember day 12 big time because we only had Joey Lawrence for, I think, 2 days on this movie. So we had to shoot basically everything you see in the movie in a day, or it might have been 1 day. I could ask Richard that. It was 1 or 2 days. It was fucking nuts when you think about it. So like he's just like bang, 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 shooting scenes out, running through, you know, scene after scene. We're getting through it. And keep in mind, guys, he's on what's called a portal to portal schedule, which we talked about this before. Portal to portal means from when you leave your door in the morning, clock's running, until you walk through your threshold into your home at night, clock is running the whole time. So we had him for 12 hours, portal to portal, couldn't be a minute over. And we had to get this shit done. And of course, I'm cruising through my day, and I'm actually like impressed with how well we're doing, and it's all going to time out. We're chasing the sun. We want sunset at a certain time so that it can come through the windows, and it's all working to plan. And then, of course, there's a scene at the end. It's the big culminating scene where the entire family realizes that Arlo the pig is a hero and he's saved the fucking day. And wouldn't you know it, Lindsay's holding this guy, and he kicks her like a donkey kick, like kicks back, and his little hoof like scraped her stomach, like kicked her in the stomach, and it kicked her so hard that like she had a little scrape from this thing, like the thing, like, you know, it didn't break the skin, but like it almost could have, like the impact from this thing's hoof. That's why I want to tell you, this was 2 weeks in, and it had grown. The pig had gotten bigger and stronger. It was like a fucking ferocious beast at this point. It was like having a boar, you know, a wild boar that this little girl had to hold. So, little girls, obviously, nobody wants to get kicked in the stomach by a pig, especially this poor little girl who's just trying to focus on her scene, and you know she's doing such a great job and remembering all these lines, and now she's got to deal with this. Joey Lawrence was awesome during this. He kind of stepped in, and you know everybody. I don't want to just single him out in particular, but like everybody was, you know, really got behind Lindsay. Like, are you okay? Trying to make her feel better. We put some, you know, we cleaned her hoof wound, and you know, she, you know, again stepped up, and that's when I made a switch at the end. You know, for whatever reason, Lindsay Lamb was one of our actresses, and she really got along with the pig and was like vibing with the pig, and like to the point where like it was kind of like, you know, oh, that's the only one that he won't go insane for. You know, she's the only one who like it was with her, he wouldn't go insane. So he said, I took Lindsay aside and I said, listen, you'd be doing me like a huge favor if like in this end scene, can it be like a big sister, little sister thing? And like you hold the pig for Lindsay and she like does the lines of dialogue to the pig and can still cuddle it, but you're holding it because she just got kicked in the stomach by a pig. Please.
The pig doesn't like her.
Yeah.
The pig likes you. You hold the pig.
Basically. So I switched that. I made that one little switch. And I basically went up to Lindsay and I was like, Lindsay, I'm so sorry that happened. I was like, do you think you can continue on? And she's like, of course. And I was like, listen, I don't think you can do it. It's the pig. I don't want you holding that pig anymore. And she was like, okay, thanks. like she definitely didn't take it personally.
No problem.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, Lindsay can hold the pig. So we got through it. You know, that's what you got to do. And one other quick thing, I got to say, look, I don't want to throw too much heat at this pig because he did do a lot of cool things for us. He really did. You know, again, there was a lot of loose writing in this one. It was like the pig plays or the pig whatever. So we had to figure out what to do. So, one of the things was we built this staircase. Because the pig ends up sleeping with the little girl. He, cuddles in bed with her. And, how the fuck does he get up there? That's what we had to figure. That was one of the things, in the script, he does all this shit. He moves around to all these places where, unless he could fly, how's this motherfucker getting up on a counter? How's he going to reach the sink?
Right.
He's not even a foot tall. He doesn't have fucking fingers. He ain't climbing. So we did a little movie magic, and we had these, staircases that he could build. So I had him, nosing, a book and, a thing. He builds, a shelf a staircase out of, items that would be found in a kid's room. And it was really cute. And, hey, after a couple of tries and the right amount of bait, this fucking pig was running up and down this little staircase that we built for him. It was a really cool scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because I love I love the idea that this pig found little cute things that would fashion a staircase for himself. And we did the same thing when, he's got a drink from a cup, and it's, the older sister's drinking cup that she drinks from in the bathroom. And we had to actually get the pig to drink from the cup. And, a pig drinking from a cup, there's a reason pigs don't use cups, guys. Because they're fucking maniacs. And the second they start drinking, they start bucking their head all around, and they get excited. They're into it. They're licking up a storm. So he was knocking the fucking cup over, and it was getting everywhere. So we had to literally anchor the cup down and glue the cup to the surface of the counter, so that he's not just going nuts on the thing.
Going nuts on the cup. It's going all over the place.
Exactly. So we did a lot of fun little things to make it work.
Her bacon lines
actually tastes like bacon.
Bacon's hot dog water. And
yeah,
those were clever.
That was fun. And let me tell you something, guys. There were many a joke made on set where it was if this pig doesn't cooperate, we might be having ham sandwiches for lunch today. There's a lot of that kind of talk, Not that we were threatening him, but that, he knew that, bacon could be served at any moment, my friend. No, we would never do that. The Porch is an animal-friendly show. So yeah, guys, this movie got out there. Lionsgate put it out. Very, very happy to be part of Lionsgate. It's a very big company, and anytime they put a movie out, they do it right. And that it's going to be in Walmart and on demand and everywhere. So
I found it on Amazon. Had to purchase it, so it's not part of Prime, but it was still, not a huge purchase, but
Well, thank you for supporting.
Hey, listen,
appreciate that.
I don't bootleg movies. No, never been a fan of that. So
it was very, very nice of you. And I did talk briefly. I just want to get into this for a minute because I wasn't talking any kind of. I wasn't throwing any shade at the local crews because I love working in Rhode Island and anywhere in New England and New York. But LA has this thing where everybody is in the movie business or knows somebody in the movie business, or their dad was in the movie business, or their uncle was a contractor and built sets for years, or their mom was a medic on a movie set, or the movie business is such a part of their financial infrastructure over there, just a part of their, a revenue stream for how people end up making money if they live in that area.
Right.
That it's just such commonplace, and everybody kind of just understands what you're doing. And it's kind of nice to be in a place where it's not a big deal that you're making a movie.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit. It's not a lot of hoopla. It's kind of oh, really? You're making a movie? Great. 8 million other fucking people are making a movie today here as well.
There's a movie on every block.
Yeah, have a nice day. You know what I mean? They don't care. And that's kind of nice. And it's nice to be living in that perspective and seeing what that's like. And also, look, again, not knocking any of the production houses, rental houses around here, but whatever you need, and I mean anything, it's available to be rented in Los Angeles at one of the many props houses, rental houses, production houses. You need a fucking spaceship? You can rent a spaceship. You need the inside of a fucking old plane from the 1950s? They got that. You want a go-kart? Anything you can think of.
You don't have to build it.
They don't build it. You
build
can
something
rent
out.
it.
You just rent it. And it's not coming from a far space. Like, if we want to get a spaceship out here, it's probably going to come from California, so you have to wait for it to get delivered. When you're in California, you need a spaceship. There's a guy around the corner that has 3.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you have your choice of spaceships to shoot in. And guys, like, sets, too. You know, like, I shot a movie that maybe we'll talk about one of these days called Altitude. And, you know, we shot a lot of that on a soundstage, and a lot of the set pieces, like the plane, you know, they were just mobile, and they had them, they showed up, they broke it down, they set it up. Not a lot of places around here. You just like, get a plane to show up to your facility. Okay, you know, break it down and shoot in it. So it's just really cool to have that functionality that LA has. But this thing got out there, and hey, look, you could call it a silly little kids movie about a talking pig, but hey, this is one of those situations where this silly little talking pig movie led to so many much bigger things and opened so many doors for me and got me acclimated to working out in LA, and I met a bunch of people in LA. I met some people in LA on this movie that I'm still friends with, and when I go out there, you know, we'll still catch up and, you know, get a coffee or whatever. So, you know, this is one of those things where, you know, sometimes we talked about it before, but this will keep coming up. In the movie business, you've got to take every opportunity because you never know what other opportunities that's going to lead to.
Right.
You know? So, shout out to anyone I missed. I had a lot of fun on this one. Alex Napawaki, he's a great guy that I still see when I'm out there. Met him on this movie. He was an art guy. And Tyler Connie, T-Con, Big Friendly Dinosaur, we call him. He's a really cool guy.
That's a cool nickname.
Yeah, he's just a big friendly dinosaur. He's a producer on this movie, and he's got a company called Taylor and Dodge, which puts out a lot of films, and yeah, just a lot of great people that I got a chance to meet out there. And hey, anyone out there who's listening to this that's contemplating a move to LA or getting out there and seeing what it's like, check it out. Go for it. You know, it's worth it. You know, go out there for at least a week or 2 and feel the vibe, because I'm telling you, it sounds like the corniest bullshit you'll ever hear, but there's something about being in this place where all the magic kind of happens that makes your own dreams seem a little bit more realistic just by being there. So, if you're thinking about making a trip, life's fucking short. Do it.
Do it while you can.
And I think that about does it for us this week.
Excellent. It's another episode. It's episode 6.
Can you believe it?
6 in already.
Half a dozen
episodes of The Porch. On the next episode, we're going to be talking about saving Christmas. Or are we going to save that one?
No, let's go right into it. Let's go right into it, because I think by the time we record it and put it out, it'll be December, so we'll be feeling Christmas vibes.
Absolutely. Right now, it's still too early for Christmas, though.
Yeah, let the turkey have his day.
Let Thanksgiving happen, and then, you know, Black Friday, you can put up all your Christmas stuff.
Right.
And we'll be bringing you Saving Christmas on the next episode of The Porch. As always, DJ Caveman, Tom DiNucci, coming to you live every week from The Porch. Limited leaf blowing in this episode.
Not bad. It was almost soothing, like white noise.
Yeah.
Just like in the background, maybe help you fall asleep or relax a little bit.
Yeah. So check us out on all the social medias as well. Everywhere where you can get a podcast, you can get any episode of The Porch for download or stream on iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Spreaker.com, and Deezer. I think I got them all.
Deezer?
Deezer. There's some new one that I got to add. So they're everywhere. And we'll check you guys out next time.
All right, guys, we got to take a minute to tell you a little bit about our sponsor. Honor, celebrate, promote. This is the mantra of Avalonia Film Festival, a film festival you can trust. Low entry fees and a website that actually honors, celebrates, and promotes you and your work as a filmmaker, photographer, and actor. Go to their website, distancefromavalon.com, That's DISTANCEFROMAVALON.com, and click on their page for the first 3 live events and see why the Film Freeway has put them as a top 100 best reviewed film festival several times now. Very reputable film festival, guys. So you can find them on the filmfreeway.com. Do a search, look for Avalonia Festival. Again, that's that's AVA, I should spell it right too, AVALONIA, and use the promo code PORCH in all caps for a 17% discount on all your entries. Now, guys, they specialize in films that are 21 minutes or under with a variety of competitive genres for every filmmaker. So you get a horror movie, you get a vampire film, comedy, dark comedy, a mobile film that you shot on your cell phone, romance, anything. They probably have a category for it. That's the Avalonia Film Festival. Competitive categories for all those, many more. Photographers, you can put your photos on there. Many different opportunities for artists to get their work out there, looked at a low, low price.